Hello! Welcome
Hi.
to The Wandering Path.
Hello.
This is the Detour, where we talk about the show instead of making the show.
Nice.
We talk about the game instead of making the game. We talk about the story instead of making the story. just for a week, just because... You know, when we're like going so hard on story and plot and emotions and feelings, it can get lost that like we're friends and we just want to hang out.
Yeah. It's almost like we like each other or something.
Man.
Weird.
God.
Gay.
Oh, taking it back. That's a party point.
Yeah!
Talk about
Okay.
that later.
Speaking of party points.
Okay, so I guess, Ian, let's start there.
Talk about party points.
So, party points. Party points have popped up into this podcast. They've been a thing. I've been doing them for years. I'm constantly thinking about how to reward players for having fun and making jokes in a way that, like, I don't want to reward a player's joke with an in-character thing, and I don't want to reward an in-character thing with an out-of-character reward, which is why I'm not, like, a huge fan of inspiration in Dungeons & Dragons.
DM inspiration.
Yeah. So I, you know, thinking back, we all love Whose Line Is It Anyway?
Yes.
So I came up with this thing, party points, where, you know, you toss them off, they're worth nothing. You can just name a number.
They're
and
worth
people
everything.
only
Points don't matter.
only
but they
now.
do.
They do.
Only now, because this is my first game on tape, there's a record
Yes.
of me giving them out.
Yes.
And Ian, remind me, Ian, we played a game together before, right?
Yeah.
Did I do party points in that game?
No.
Okay.
This is two separate. You have a party points history, and then I have my own
He's taking the power
separate thing of it, and we've come together.
Oh, do you? Do you want to tell us about your party point thing?
Well, when I was in a super heteronormative fraternity in college,
Oh my god.
We take back all that gay from before.
What a start.
Straight.
at Monday meetings, there was we had the ding board, which was literally someone had like
The CinemaSins board.
super glued a ding bell to the top of a clipboard, and then they had a piece of paper, and anytime someone said something funny that got a big laugh in the meeting, they'd ding the bell and they'd keep the record, and we kept the record for the whole year.
Holy
Yeah.
man. Wow.
Oh, wow.
So that's my experience with it, and then you said the word party points, and a match made in heaven was born.
Where were you
I
on
see.
the board?
My brand of comedy did not. It was not as popular in that.
That's so
in
messed
that
up.
setting,
You deserve to be at the top of the board.
and I was not.
You were
That's
wasted on the
fucked
straight.
up.
I was.
You know,
But the gays love you.
Yeah. I mean, I also had a similar thing when I was in college. We had this thing called the bar, which was just a bunch of command hooks on our wall and like a golden curtain rod we'd gotten somewhere for $5. And anytime someone, you know, said something truly commendable, we would raise the bar. And anytime somebody would do something that was just like really shameful, we'd lower the bar.
Clever.
Well, then people would come over to our house for house parties, and they'd just be like, wait, so it's just there? So can I just... And they just pick it up and lower it. And every single house... I live with 4 other guys. We would all be like, you can't just lower the bar for no reason.
Somebody has to do something deplorable.
Yeah. So we wrote it into the house rules. One of the house rules became you can't just lower the bar.
Amazing.
Which, like, I feel like is good. Like,
I think that is a
actually.
good mantra.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can't just lower the bar. You have to, once you've reached a standard, that is the new standard.
yeah. All of which is to say, Ian, you've been keeping track of the party points
Yes.
for this campaign so far. Now, my caveat for you doing this was that I retain the prerogative to cut out anything that earns a party point.
This is true.
That said, where are your totals?
Okay.
This might not be the canon totals, but it's our real lived experience.
Well, the whole
totals.
point of party points is that they're not canon. So I do think this is just... I think we just have a total, and that's what the total
Yes.
is.
That's so funny.
Yeah, this is canon. You just haven't heard all of the canon.
Yeah, correct.
Fair.
Okay, so I'm starting from the bottom up. I'm taking like fun party points, but I'm also just taking a couple of like just so we know things are happening.
Okay.
Cleaning items made by Fran so far in the series.
Yes.
2. Times Misha's dog tried to be a part of the podcast. 10.
Whoa. Max high on the leaderboard.
Production manager Aaron Bark, who is the light of our life, 1 party point.
Nice.
Oh.
We're going to get her score up there.
We're gonna get her score up there. Misha Stanton, 2.5 party points.
You know, so that's the other thing about me inventing party points and giving them out as rewards to players. I never get party points. So, like,
do now.
I'm doing good.
Yeah,
Yes,
that's
you're doing
great.
great.
Pretty good. How did half happen?
I can't remember. It was funny, but it wasn't quite the full explosion of laughter that we would usually get. But it was so clever that I still wanted to mark it in some way.
I'll take it.
It's the only half on the board so far.
I'll take that too.
I literally made a separate section of a half points.
Yeah, excellent.
That's spectacular.
I myself have 2 party points.
Nice.
Nice.
Bex and Lynn, you have 3 party points apiece.
Hell yeah.
And then Mayana has a whopping 7 party points.
That feels correct.
That feels right. That feels so right.
We all gotta catch up. We all gotta raise the bar.
We gotta raise the bar.
Yeah, this week, Mayana's queen of the party.
Yay! You get a little crown. Here you go.
I love my crown. It's so shiny. I like being funny and I like making people laugh. And I do aspire to be funny as much as I possibly can. So
You're damn
I
good at it.
appreciate
Yeah,
that.
you truly, why do you think we asked you to be here? Come on.
Yes, we like you, but also you're damn funny.
Yeah.
Thank you. That means a lot. Thank you.
Okay, y'all want to talk about this story?
Yes.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
Okay, so we've had 5 episodes in the city of New Prosper.
Hell yeah.
How's it feeling?
Great.
I love it.
Yeah.
So
So
fun.
good.
Oh my God, it's a dream. It's
my
so
favorite.
fun.
It's literally a dream.
Yeah.
Not to be begging for compliments or whatever, but
please.
why and how.
Tell me everything
specific
about what
with
you
your
like about my
feedback.
story that I have made for you.
Yes, please.
Yes. Oh my gosh. The world is so fun. I mean, the world building day where we all got to add something was so fun. And so now it feels very fleshed out. And the characters, the society, the class disparity, the separation, there's just so much. You feel like you are a small piece of this larger tapestry, and you're very good at encapsulating that.
Well, thank you.
You're welcome.
And I like the mystery. I honestly have no idea what we're doing right now, and I love that because you're not making it confusing and
Yeah.
frustrating. You're making it engaging and curious, and
Yeah.
intriguing.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, I mean, we started out that first episode with a banger of a mystery that was not explained at all, and then you had to
Yeah.
go about your daily lives. So
Yes.
I mean, that felt so real, though.
That's how it would be if you were a person and you were just you were just living your life, and
And
then
you're
one day
suddenly
something
handed a
weird
destiny.
happened.
Yeah.
You too wouldn't have. Where would you start?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's so often we see these fantasy projects where it's like, oh, big destiny, immediately like, okay, well, I have to figure out this dream in my destiny.
Yeah.
Reality is more like, okay, that was freaking weird.
Yeah.
And there's so much other stuff I have to do.
Yeah. In addition,
I have this memory that I forgot for years and years and years and then remembered years later. Oh. I walked out of my parents' house. I was taking out the garbage at night, and I looked up in the sky, and there was a UFO in the sky.
Yeah.
It was a glowing disc that was super high up, bright white light spinning rainbows just sitting there at night. And I looked at it for a minute, and then my brain went, I don't know what the fuck that was, and then just continued to take the trash out and forgot that it happened for years.
wow.
Because I just couldn't
Yeah, you're
process
like,
it.
I can't do that. I have laundry to do.
So I was like, back to normal things. Boop, ba doop, ba boop, ba boo.
yeah, I mean, that's kind of what I was going for. I was trying to imagine, what if I found out one day for certain that I had a magical destiny and then still had to wake up and go to work?
Yeah.
I don't stop having a job or needing to pay rent because I have a magical destiny.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And real quick to go back to an earlier thing Mayana said, being part of the world building makes it feel so much more personal. And I don't know about the rest of y'all, it makes me feel so much more connected to the world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It feels like a place that's lived in.
Yeah.
That we are familiar with. Because it's you get dropped into a campaign and you are learning about the environment as the DM is giving it to you.
Yeah.
But by it being collaborative, it's well, I at least know my area,
Yeah.
which is how it would be if you lived there.
yeah.
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 And of course, Misha is still surprising us with new things,
Absolutely,
as a
of
brilliant
course.
dungeon master is
As
going to
always,
do.
Absolutely.
Aw, shucks.
But being part of the base, the
Yeah.
core of it feels really good.
Yeah.
I also just have to say that I love that you made the elves French.
That feels
Yeah.
so right.
Canonically French.
Yeah, so I'll talk about that a little bit
Yes,
because
please.
that's one thing we really didn't do in the world building was populating
Who's French and
the-
who's not?
Yeah, who's French and who's not. Populating the sort of racial diversity of the world.
Yeah.
And so when we were making characters, 2 of you came back with humans. One person came back with Bex. You and I talked about doing Hexblood, but it comes out in our world as human-ish. And Lynn, you're the only person really playing a non-human.
Still part human, but
Yes. So I didn't really know what exactly our world was going to look like. I was like, well, it's mostly human and dwarves also exist. And, we're all, tied back to J.R.R. Tolkien. And if there's dwarves, there's elves. And I was and at that point, I was like, well, do we want to just do every D&D race? So that's kind of where I went, is like, I didn't really want to do tieflings and Goliaths and halflings and all that stuff. I wanted to keep it a little more contained than that. And we already had dwarves. I was already kind of planning to use elves, especially for people who were longevitous. And
Nice word.
thank you.
put that in your SAT prep book.
Yeah, seriously. So we had humans and two races whose lifespans are longer than humans. I was like, that's an interesting dynamic, because human in the book, in fantasy world, kind of wants to be in the middle of a melange. So I was like, well, there's two races with longer lifespans. I'll just make two races with shorter lifespans, and humans will be in the middle, which is kind of where Saurids and Capras came from.
The deer folk, right?
Yes. We haven't had a ton of deer folk. I think the only real deer person we've had is Nora, the receptionist at the clinic.
Yeah.
And she's lovely and Scottish.
Yes.
We love her.
And something that hasn't really come up yet is that, like, objectively, you guys are almost the same age, but she matures more rapidly, so she's like middle-aged for a Capra.
Same with the Saurids.
Yes, same with Saurids. That's and we'll talk about this in a little bit, but that's part of why Ravona called you guys children.
Yeah.
It's because she is actually a lot closer to children than you might think just to look at and talk to her.
Interesting.
Wait.
More closer
She's
to adulthood.
Closer.
Because she is objectively younger, but further along in her maturity.
Okay. So she's been on the earth for less years, but those years are more mature.
But because of their life
Shorter
cycle,
lifespan. I see.
is further along in their life cycle.
Right.
Yeah.
Old man fly. One day
Yeah.
old.
So I've been playing with that
Yeah.
a little bit, and then we're in an audio medium, so I had to come up with some way to differentiate these races, and I give all elves French accent.
I love that.
French is not even one of my like pocket accents.
Which is it's so funny to hear you do it.
So good.
I did take French in all through grade school, so like
Yeah, I took like 7 years of French.
Seven? Oh my god.
Misha, your French accent isn't bad.
Yeah,
it's
it's
just
good.
funny.
Yeah.
Oh, great. Thank you. Yeah, I will. And what's great about it is that, and we haven't even gotten to this much either, but so far, all the elves we've met do have positions of authority over you guys, and they know stuff that you don't. So, like, to play them as these, like, keeping it close to the chest,
very
and also
French.
with his accent on top of it, like, it is really fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't
Amazing.
know. I felt like it fit.
No, it fits great.
fits
Even though his
really
name is
well.
Thorgan.
I know
Yeah.
that's what if I could go back and change anything, it would be picking a less Viking name for Thorgan.
No, I think it works so well.
It
because
does.
it
Fabulously.
feels so. What's the word that means something out of time?
Ageless?
Anachronistic.
Anachronistic. That's
Put
it.
that in your non-SAT prep book.
Damn, girl.
Are the ACTs still a thing? I took the ACT.
I had to take both of them, and I was bad at both of them.
I didn't go to college.
So let's talk about that a little bit. Like,
Not going to college?
well, some of you are going to college.
Well, that's why that's another thing that I'm really loving about this is like I get to go to college.
How's it going?
Well, okay, here's the thing. I did Duke Tip when I was a kid, so I took criminal trial advocacy one summer at Yeah. So this is really fun for me. Like this is actually throwing it back to my childhood. My only experience with college is in criminal trial advocacy for 4 weeks one summer when I was 14.
I love that.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
So this
Iconic
is
behavior.
Yeah, this is really fun for me. This is the only time I went to college was for a summer and in this game, and it's both for, like the same sort of thing, that sort of idealistic version of wanting to help through a system that's put in place that's definitely broken, but thinking that this is the only way to help and wanting to be part of it.
Yeah.
Because that was a big thing for me as a kid.
Yeah.
I would love to talk about that next. So one of the big vibes we wanted to bring to this game was sort of like figuring out where you exist within systems with positions of authority, what you owe to those people and things. And we designed characters towards that goal, but designing a character and playing a character for 5 episodes, very different things.
Absolutely.
So I would love to talk about how your characters are feeling now that you're living inside of them.
Well, for JJ, I had a pretty concrete idea with what I wanted, and I think that like a lot of that still rings true. But I do think like some of the stuff when thinking about like the magical destiny and stuff is that JJ didn't feel like, and to some degree still doesn't feel that way, of like JJ didn't feel like the destiny applied to her until it started affecting the people around her.
Yeah.
Well, as soon as she realized like, oh, like Samira, something's up with Samira, or like my friends, these party members, like that Paz got injured, or like that this was at my dad's work site.
Yep.
Like those are the things that like I think are the things that are causing her to act.
Yeah.
Which is surprising to them for sure. But that's like part of the tension that I wanted to create. And it feels like that's the thing is like, oh, this feels like it's building a home within this character that makes a lot of sense in those ways of like, oh, it's rooted to these people, rooted to these connections, that I'm like, okay, the trajectory of this character is transforming a little bit in a way that I really, really like.
Cool.
I love JJ.
It is delightful.
Yeah.
They're so self-conscious.
I know, they became so much more awkward than I initially set them out, but I was like, no, that was the right call.
Yeah.
They are deeply actually very anxious.
Yeah.
And it's really fun to watch the way you're playing it, the trajectory you're taking JJ on with that like visceral response to danger being fight rather than flight, which is what they expected. And I loved having you play with that, and I'm loving watching it continue.
Oh, thanks.
I do. I mean, this is just maybe a casual observation, but like for a long time, JJ kind of assumed that the response would be flight, and then that magical destiny dream happened, and like the dream wasn't wrong to pick JJ, but JJ has to kind of figure that out.
Yeah.
You know, like obviously there was something that whatever cosmic force sent you guys that dream sees in you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And also in class, in that scene where you're in class with Samira, where I think you get called on in class, and like you do know the answer. Like I think I've known so many of those kids who are like they do know it, and they're like no, and I'm like, you do know it though. Like what's the problem?
You're so capable.
Yeah.
And that's also something so interesting for me, like, or at least for JJ.
It's all blending together.
Bleed, it's happening. But like JJ seeing their friends, and they fully believe that all of their friends are more capable than them. Like they believe that Ibra's like certainly more combat capable. Fran is
Well, they are.
yeah. Fran should be the engineer, like, and is like, why am I in engineering school when Fran can just do this shit?
Yeah.
Like, Gordon is so charismatic, and like, I think JJ feels like they are the weakest link.
Which is so interesting to me because I feel like you've had some of the most impactful combat turns in the show.
Agreed. And hot take, leaders tend to not think of themselves as leaders.
Truly is. And the best leaders lead from inside the pack.
Exactly.
What's that like, Lynn?
Yeah.
Skin crawling.
Me and JJ want to vomit.
And that's the thing about Ibra that I wanted to design, was someone who was literally manufactured to be a leader, who doesn't want to be a leader, who just wants to be part of the pack.
I feel very protected by Ibra. I feel like they're always jumping in there, taking care of stuff. It's very nice.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know what other class we possibly could have picked for Ibra other than Warden, the guy who protects everyone forever.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's really great.
Yeah, really. Especially our party currently as what it is. Like, it's just really nice to have someone who's like, okay, cool, we're going to throw you at the big thing.
Yeah.
And it's been really fun because, like, I get to throw Ibra into these situations that they aren't sure they can handle, and they can to an extent, but they still need their team.
Absolutely.
And they know it, and they don't feel afraid to have like these people behind, like intrinsically. Maybe it was the dream, maybe it was the first combat, but at no point has Ibra felt any sort of question about whether this team would have their back.
Yeah.
Sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think what JJ, like, with everyone too, is JJ really loves her friends largely because, like, oh, all of these people are so comfortable taking initiative. And, like, I think when we were talking about like backstory and stuff, like Ibra's the one that JJ has known the longest out of the party from just being in school together. And I think like that was the thing that drew JJ to Ibra is like, oh, like, yeah, you're from uptown or whatever. Like, I shouldn't like you. Like, probably was really skeptical of you for a while, but like saw that you were willing to get your hands dirty, that you stood up for people. And was like, oh shit, like that is a really commendable person. That is the kind of person I want to be around. And like this person is unafraid of taking that initiative. And then while meeting Fran and Gordon, like that is, I think, the common thread between specifically the three of you. That JJ's like, I want to do that too. And I think these people will push me to do that. So like when Fran is like, say it with your chest. Like JJ does take that to heart. It's like, okay,
good.
like
God,
you're
Fran's
right, you're
the
right.
best cheerleader.
I know. Like everyone needs a Fran.
Everyone
needs
needs a
Fran.
You got a Fran in me.
Well, and I do think that like if this is how JJ was feeling as you were becoming friends with these people, then to appear and the dream is the three of them and you.
Yeah.
You know? And like, Bex, you said it in that very first episode that like, just by being drawn into it, the four of you being drawn into it, like, it makes you feel like you're a part of something, even if you don't know what it is.
Yeah.
And so like, for JJ to see all of these people with these commendable qualities and then to be among their number, implicit, like, without equivocation, that's the word I was looking for, without like any doubt. You know, like, it's a dream, it's magical, and you are there with them. You are among their number. It's just like a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
I know we've gone over this, but remind me again, how old is everyone-ish? Are you guys college age?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, 20s.
Like early 20s.
I think, yeah, we went with like some early mid-20s energy when we were all making characters, I think.
But that age, that sort of like not quite kids, but not quite adults.
Yeah.
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 Oh,
That
Yeah.
like those last couple of years of your brain forming sort
Yeah.
of situation.
Not a girl, not yet a woman.
Yeah. Very much so. I love this.
Oh my lord.
Ian, talk to me about Gordon a little bit, because you came in and said, I am going to play Tombo from Kiki's Delivery, but now Gordon's his own guy. So like, I do want to talk about that evolution a little bit.
I know, this is what I was thinking about. It's so hard for me to balance, because I think this has happened in all three games that I've played, where I've picked a really, really strong personality type that you wouldn't think it would be beneficial to like moving the game or the story forward, right? Like I played a really, really big, dumb barbarian dragonborn in my first campaign. Slate that
we played you were in Earth Genasi.
yeah, and Slate was just like such a weird, funny dude. And then I wanted to basically play Tombo in this campaign, but I'm always balancing that with my own super, super type A personality.
Sure.
So that in those moments where this character that I want to be a little bit less impactful maybe is in a mystery circumstance, right? There was that moment last episode where you're like, I'm so glad you guys decided to walk over to the hole because I had a thing there.
Yeah.
Because so there's
Yeah,
always...
I did. As soon as we shut the recording off, I was like, oh my God, if you guys hadn't looked at what was in the hole, I would have been so sad.
Right. So it's
We would
always
be lost without you.
So it's always a balance, right?
Yeah.
And it ultimately changes the character from the original energy that I want into this new thing, which is cool.
Well,
and great.
that's what we're here to do. Like, you're not playing Tombo, you're playing Gordon.
Right,
Gordon's
right,
a different
right.
guy.
Right.
And so that's what I'm interested in. I mean, maybe Gordon's smarter than he thinks he is.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, Gordon has the highest intelligence. out of
Yeah,
the whole
exactly.
bunch,
Oh, that's
you
a great
know?
point. That's such a
Like,
great point. I didn't think about
even
that.
mechanically, like Gordon, I think is like that personality or that almost caricature of that personality isn't the same as like what's actually happening, and that's not necessarily like untrue of real people
Right.
or untrue
And
of
also,
other characters.
Tombo in Kiki's Delivery Service is really smart.
Yeah.
He's super observant. He's interested in Kiki.
He almost makes that propeller bike.
He almost makes that propeller bike. Like,
Look, if
he
he'd
is-
had a Fran, he would have been able to do it.
Yeah.
That's so true.
He's like he's not as small-minded as some of the other people in that world. And I also think Ian, as a player, you're very, very smart.
Oh, thank
so I
you.
think like that will inevitably bleed into Gordon because like you have good instincts.
Yeah.
So I think those feed into him very nicely.
Thank you. I appreciate
You're
that.
welcome.
Yeah, the past two episodes felt a little bit more like Detective Gordon Baker.
Yes.
Detective Baker.
Detective Baker.
Which is fun. And it feels...
Now I'm just imagining a police officer like sprinkling flour to find
Yes.
the footsteps.
Yeah.
Wait, we have to
I
do that
literally
at some point.
learned
Yeah.
how to take fingerprints using cocoa powder.
Did you really?
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
weird thing that happened.
Remind me not to touch anything else in your house.
That's so funny.
You can touch anything in my house.
Not if I don't want proof. I'm trying to get rid of the evidence.
You should have thought about that before.
Mayana, what about you? What's going on for you?
Oh my gosh. Well, when I first moved to LA, I was working at a movie theater. And
For real, not for play.
For real. And I think I brought a lot of those experiences. I also worked in retail for a long time. And so I remember that when it was like my first job out of college, I was interviewing for an associate level position. And the guy who was interviewing me was like, how do you feel about management? And I was like, I feel great. And he goes, really? And I was like, yeah. And he's like, have you ever done management before? I'm like, no. But I think I can figure it out.
Yeah, amazing.
So I think like working in retail spaces, working in customer service, I was also a hostess at a restaurant. So I think like I brought a lot of that. And I think that in those spaces, you do start to just identify things that you can tell don't work and are silly. And you may not always be able to fix them. But I think like that was a big impetus for Fran. And then I think also like I'm playing in a lot of like high fantasy, like I'm playing like a noble woman for the first time in a home game, and I'm playing a girl at like a magical college in a different game. So I think I just really wanted a very grounded gal. I just
Well, and we also, talk about picking the right class for the right character.
Yeah.
Like what seems so fun to me about Craftsman is that like even when you're doing magical stuff, it's all in physical items.
Yes.
It's not like you're just putting stuff together.
I'm just trying to build.
You really get your hands into it.
Build a better world.
Trying to
that's the
build
big
world.
thing.
Yeah. So I really adore her. I don't know what my direction I think was like, or I like when we first started playing in the first day, I was still trying to I think like suss out what her personality or her feel was. But yeah, like just identifying the strengths in the other characters and just being excited by the things that everybody else is doing, I think like informed me how she best can support.
Well, there was this great moment I really loved from the first episode, which I like sort of found in the edit, I guess, and I, through use of music, and shout out to the Independent Music Licensing Collective for their amazing quality and selection for an affordable price.
We love you.
I like took this cue and I really tried to make a moment out of it because it really moved me. When Fran is talking to, I think she's talking to Morga in Boggins, where she's like,
It's Cecilia.
Or Cecilia, yeah, where she's like, I look around and everyone's not improving things they could be. And like I feel like that was really core to my understanding. I really identified with Fran in that moment too.
Oh, thank you. I just remember when she was talking to Cecilia, and Cecilia's like, I'm scared all the time. And I was like, I couldn't tell.
And I love like how you listen. Like you and Fran, you both listen and you bring it back. Like you never throw anything back in anyone's face. You bring it back in a gentle way, in a way that's like healing and progressive.
Oh, that means the world to me. Thank you.
One of the really interesting things, everyone could use a Fran for sure. And it's like one of the things that I've noticed kind of listening back at things is that every time we're complimenting Fran's not there. And I think that's actually something that I don't know, I as a player noticed that, and I was like, should that be something that's in game, an important aspect, where we all know so surefire that Fran's fucking awesome, really goddamn capable, so fucking smart, and so great at being everyone's cheerleader, where Lynn as a player is but does Fran get some of that back?
Yeah.
Where
so
that to
sweet.
me is kind of a really interesting dynamic that I think was accidental, but I think is really interesting, where I'm just
That's very astute. I didn't even realize that.
well, we're all in the same room together. These things happen. That's a weird thing.
No, there's a couple moments where before the four of you guys get together at Boggins in that first episode, where I think Eber and JJ are talking about that dream was crazy, but also that armor was rad. Fran probably made it.
Yeah,
She's
I
so
remember
cool.
that. Yes.
Yeah, and you're right. That does come up a lot.
There's a lot of moments where just various comments of Fran's fucking great at everything.
And not to be earnest on Maine or anything.
No, that's my job.
I also identify with Fran in that a lot. In that she's so good at the things she's passionate about, but she can't make that into her job just yet.
Yep.
And so she keeps getting these other jobs that she's also losing kind of through no fault of her own. Just by the state of the world taking the jobs away.
Which is very poignant for the moment in time we were recording this
Yeah,
podcast.
dude. Yeah,
Yep, this exact moment in time.
It's March 2024.
Yep. I heard I heard a quote from a friend, mostly in terms of my own industry, but survive till 25.
Yeah.
Wow.
I heard,
Holy
I heard the
fuck.
same thing recently.
I was just talking to my friend that I ran into at a coffee shop this morning. She also works in marketing, and we're both like,
Yep.
so
This
we're
year's-
not working, right?
Yeah.
And she's like, yeah, we're
Yeah.
not working.
Yeah.
Survive to
It's-
25. That's a
Survive
good
to
one.
20.
She's like
25.
running her little pottery pop-up in the coffee shop
Yeah.
by us, and she's like, so I've been doing this more. I'm like, that's great.
Yeah,
She's
dude,
like,
I
yeah.
asked four of my friends. I'm like, hey, none of us are doing a ton. You guys want to make a D&D podcast together?
I was like, yes, I do.
For once.
Oh, those
Anything
lucky
else?
fucks.
I
Yeah.
really do.
Hey there, it's Misha. This is the rest stop. Come take a break beside the path with me, just until we catch our breath. I hope you're liking this detour. We thought it'd be fun to change up the format a little, try something a little different. I promise we won't have too many. Every few episodes or so maybe, we're still working it out. But one thing we definitely want to include next time is your listener questions. Please, we'd love to hear from you. If you have any burning questions about the characters, the story, the plot, the game mechanics, hell, even questions about us, no question too big or too small, please submit them to us. Hit us up on social media. We're at Wandering Path Pod on Instagram or at Wandering Path P on the artist formerly known as Twitter. Or you can use the easy contact form on our website, wanderingpathpod.com. And if you sign up with us on our Patreon, you'll receive a special secret code to include in your submission to jump your question to the top of the queue. That's right, our patrons get priority Q&A access. That's a pledge at any level, $5 and up. And if you're able to help us out even more, you can also get access to ad-free episodes, blooper reels, stat blocks, game mechanics, and more, all by signing up with us at patreon.com/wanderingpathpod. Thank you so much to our newest patron, Charlotte A., as well as our Voyager level patron, JWX, whose questions are always answered first, though maybe in the form of a cryptic riddle or a creepy nursery rhyme or something. Okay, that's it for now. Let's get back on the path and back to the show. So, and we don't have to spend a ton of time or any time in this section at all, but is there anything about the production that you guys have questions or thoughts or comments about? I know, Bex and Lynn, you're producing with me, and you guys are doing a great job and having very thoughtful notes, and it's a wonderful collaborative process. I think, especially for Ian and Mayana, but for everyone, really, do you have any thoughts about the difference between recording it in this room and then hearing it at the end?
Ooh, I'm always curious about writing process. So, what is your story crafting process?
Oh my God, great question. One of the best things about doing an improv storytelling podcast is you don't have to write things.
Yeah.
I've been making scripted audio fiction for, God, almost 10 years. Oh my God.
Yeah, baby.
And one of the biggest stopping points is waiting for scripts to arrive so we can go into production. And with this, we're recording in 2 weeks, and I'm going to have something.
But do you have a sense ahead of the day of where you would like the story to go? Like, when we record, do you go okay, I think we're going to hit these beats today?
Yeah, good question. Thank you. I do have that. I have generally a couple of set pieces that I will bring you to and populate them with characters and let you guys kind of interact with it. My friend Eric Silver, GM of During the Party, shout out, talks a lot about how the GM has different narrative beats as a hand of cards that you can play at any time.
Yes.
And so, I have a bunch of those prepared. In fact, y'all don't maybe know this. I have a giant story document that I wrote before we even started that has a lot of the answers to the mystery.
See,
I
that's
believe
what
it.
I'm curious about. Please don't give me any spoilers. But yeah, it's you must, as a seasoned storyteller, you're not winging it by any stretch of the imagination.
That's absolutely true.
And I think there's a myth out there that it is just and you see the memes on TikTok where it's me prepping for 15 hours before session and it doesn't do anything. And it's me prepping for 20 minutes before session. You're that was amazing. That was the best session. And I'm that sounds made up. That sound, I think prep is critical.
I think it's somewhere in between those two.
Yeah.
Right. Well, with all things, right, the more work you do ideating on something, then the more fun you can have improvising when things aren't going exactly
because you have a
according to
sense
plan.
of
Where you
some
wanna go.
body, of story.
And, one of the benefits to playing D&D in our first campaign, and I know that we had some back and forth on it when we were talking about it, but It gives us a wide audience. We hope people out there are familiar with at least some of the rules, even if as we introduce new rules to the familiar rules in this game. But also that, like, I have been playing it for so long that I have kind of internalized the rules. And I think that, to your point, Mayana, I've been playing home games for so long. And home games is really where that advice
That's where that,
is big.
and I think that's that's genuinely very, like, important wisdom to impart, because I think we see a lot of stuff in the space that you're like, oh, I could just do that. And it's like, you could do that for a home game, but if you're going to do this as a production, like, there is a lot of thought and prep and time that goes into it.
Big difference between playing a game at home with your friends and making a show. But I do think that, like, the practice of doing those sling from the hip sessions,
you build up the skills.
You build up like the mental muscle memory.
Yes.
To pivot and maneuver. In situations. Like, for example, I have played some games in the past. No shade to them. This is just sometimes how games go. Where, like, the mystery of that construction site would have been a little more railroaded, but like, you guys didn't roll well that day. And other stuff had to happen. And having the ability to improvise story, like, it's a skill you have to build up.
Absolutely. And it also, and I think that comes from, like, logic, like a good understanding of just narrative logic of your, like, motivation, like, area of opportunity, like, kind of the same thing with, like, a murder mystery where you're like, were they in the right place at the right time? Did they have the motive, and did they have the opportunity? And then you can, even if it wasn't what you thought it was going to be, like, it makes sense. And, like, the audience or the players are like, oh, of course that's what you planned. Like, because it makes sense to me. For example, one of the things that was really shocking and surprising to me, and I loved it because it really fed into kind of the stuff I'm planning, was that the only person who ended up hurt in the first combat was Paz. I was like, oh, so many things could have been different if I had actually ended up really harming any of you guys in that moment. But the fact that it was just Paz, I was like, oh, okay, this is what we're doing now. That meant that in the third episode, there was definitely probably going to be a scene where you go to the hospital and visit her. I hadn't had that scene written until that combat went through. I mean, there was probably going to be that information coming episodes down the line, but it came up in episode 3 because of how the dice rolled sometimes. That's the best part about improv storytelling with dice.
Dice tell a
Being a
story.
GM is just constantly trying to think of what your next move is, but you can't think of what your next move is until somebody makes their move before yours.
Absolutely.
It's so wild.
Okay, we've talked about characters. I think what's next is to talk about story. Yes. Okay.
I love it.
So we've had 5 episodes so far. We've had 2 combats. We've had a bunch of, again, trying to find your way within these societal systems, trying to make it all fit, make it all work. How are y'all thinking about this mystery, about this story?
I'm riveted.
I'm so into it.
Edge of my seat every day. I'm like, what is going on?
Okay, what about what's going on?
I mean, like, all the stuff with, like, people coming to these locations, investigating things that you're like, you don't know what they're investigating. No one wants to tell you stuff. People are forgetting things. Like, it's very scary and very, like, unsettling. And the fact, and it's frustrating when you're a part of something and you can tell something's wrong and someone's just not telling you. And when you ask them what's wrong, not only are they not telling you, but they're like, you are entitled and stupid for asking me that. It's so interesting.
I think it was Mayana that said, I want to create a world where we want to trust each other, but we can't.
I think it was Lynn who said that.
Sorry.
Yeah.
It was Lynn that said that.
I think it was Lynn that said it, but we're going to give the credit to Mayana.
Yeah.
That sounds more fun.
Mayana's already winning on party points. Can we stop giving her all the things?
No, never.
Okay, so it was Lynn that said this.
I don't actually know who
Again,
said it, honestly.
Doesn't matter. It was said, and it was brilliant. I think that Misha's done a great job of creating that space for us. Of, like, we want to trust these people that are employing us, that are seemingly putting us in positions of danger, if
Literal
not
danger.
if not also import.
You know, and I guess that's what I want to know is, like, who are you trusting right now? Who are you not trusting? Who do you think has the thing you need?
And trusting Gwen even though she doesn't remember shit.
Okay.
Yeah, like, mechanically, the reason why JJ is a cleric is because of Gwen. So I think, like, that is a tie that would be really challenging to break. but ultimately, like I said earlier, like kind of defers to these people that she trusts most.
Yeah.
And is like, even though I want to trust Ravonna, or it feels the right thing to do in this situation, like this is a person of authority that should be the person that we trust, like still defer to Fran, whereas like if you think this is sus, it's probably not right.
Yeah, those, especially at the end of last episode with Ravonna, that moment where like like we were on the bleeding edge of trust being established, and then a combination of the dice rolls and like what's going on with her that you guys don't know about, and what's going on with you guys that she doesn't know about, it just sort of fell apart.
Yeah.
I have to say, I thought we were making the wrong call.
I did too.
When you?
I got scared. Yeah, I always have doubts.
You were the one who was saying we shouldn't
I know.
trust her.
Yeah, but you're brilliant.
But as a player, I doubt choices all the
Wild.
time. Yeah. I always doubt. That's a big swing to take.
Yeah. It was. That's what it was. It was such a big swing.
I loved it.
And again, being a type A person whose main goal is pushing story forward, to be withholding that information from our like biggest fount of stuff so far, I was like, what are we doing? Are you serious? Mm-hmm. But now that that's happened, in terms of like talking about who we trust, to me, it really does feel like the four of us against the city now.
Yeah.
And it didn't feel like that before that scene.
Yeah, 100%.
Absolutely.
And, I mean, because we are all in the same situations of like, we are putting our lives on the line now twice for this thing that we didn't sign up for, that not even the people who are like closely working in government have any context for. And especially as us, two working class characters, Gordon and myself, like this is, I don't think it's a crazy ask to be told what's going on.
Right.
And the fact that we were met with like disrespect.
Yeah.
Not just resistance, but disrespect.
Like disrespect.
Condescension.
Dismissal.
Yeah.
Dismissal. Like,
Yeah.
how dare you entitled children, is like, okay. And that's a Mayana problem too.
No,
No.
I don't think. I think you're right. Like I was rooting for you guys in that moment. I think that like yes, there's a completely different version of this story where that interaction goes well, and you guys are a team, and you're brought into this community of people trying to solve this problem.
Where the four of us were Batman and Ravonna was Inspector Gordon.
Yeah,
sending us
kind
out.
of.
Yeah.
And now that's not going to happen. She doesn't feel that way about you guys. You don't feel that way about her. We'll come back to this probably in the next episode, but how does Gwen feel about all of that? She's kind of the one who sent you to Ravonna.
Yeah. There will be consequences to this action
Yeah.
for sure.
Gwen will remember this.
Yeah.
Or maybe not.
Or maybe not.
Or she won't.
Or maybe she won't.
The Ravonna, that's really what it was, is that like that conversation with Ravonna after the construction fight, I was rooting for you guys to find that crystal in that hole, and then
Thank God, Gordon.
yeah, and then the minute you guys had the choice to show it to Ravonna or not, that was my big telltale, like Ravonna will remember that moment.
Yeah.
And that's just the end of our first arc, but we'll
Yeah.
see where it takes
Yeah.
it. It's gonna change the trajectory of the story for sure.
My tinfoil hat conspiracy theory is
Hit me.
Ravonna activated the mech.
Whoa!
Like, because we couldn't see her. We couldn't see it was too high up. I think that's I'm
That's
sure I'm
compelling.
wrong.
It
But
was a
I'm like,
completely
she
shadowy figure,
activated
yeah.
the mech.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
true.
On this subject, the thing that I've sort of been not realizing, I've been chewing on, is why is she the only other person who can remember stuff? Do we have any idea of
clue.
No,
what that
she
is?
says that there are a team, like she works with a team of
investigators or
individuals and
something.
investigators.
I'll point out she's also not the only person who remembers.
Yeah.
Paz remembered.
Oh,
Right. Paz
It's
Samira
not-
does not.
It's not clear to y'all. We haven't gotten to the point in the story where you figured out what's causing that.
Got it.
Yeah.
The only thing that's really clear is that like obviously you guys remember.
Yeah.
you
It's
know?
giving Men in Black.
Yeah, a little bit.
One of my favorite movies of all time.
Such a good movie.
Such a good
First Men in
movie.
Black, perfect film.
Terrifying. Terrifying idea that you could just like not remember something you saw.
So good. They made the exact same thing again and just put a 2 after.
And that one wasn't great.
Hot
and then they
take,
made the
love
third
3.
one, and the third one fucking rocks.
I love
Yeah.
3.
I cried.
The third one's the
cried
time travel
too.
one, right?
Yes,
Yeah, I
Josh
cried
Brolin's
too.
in it
Yeah.
playing. Oh my god, I cried.
the future seeing alien is one of my favorite characters in anything, where he can see all possible futures all at once.
Yeah.
So great.
Also, the really, really like weird looking Men in Black cartoon that was on when I was
That was a
young.
great
yeah, that was
cartoon.
great.
That was also
I love that
so
show.
sick.
Yeah. Animation cinema. Anyway.
Yeah, no, truly. So here we are, 5 episodes in. Your authority figure's not trusting you with information. I'm not going to say anything in this moment, but I would love to go around and hear what you guys think is happening. I'm not going to say anything, but I would just here in our very first Detour, our very first Talkback episode, I would love for you guys to put this on tape.
Oh my God.
Should we roll for initiative?
Yes.
Who goes first?
Do it. Fuck yeah. Misha's face.
Yeah.
Misha's
How
so
did I know
over this.
Ian was going to just jump at that?
I love that.
Can I borrow?
I love that.
I didn't
You
bring-
absolutely,
Here.
no, you absolutely can.
I rolled a 17.
You rolled a 17? That's high.
11.
4.
And unbelievably, a 2.
So I guess that's me.
Yeah, that's Lynn, you first.
Shit. Okay. I don't have any hypotheses around like the shadowy figure necessarily, but as far as like what is happening based on the investigation thus far, both mine and JJ, because at this point, as far as the investigation goes, we're the same.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the fun part about making a mystery game, right?
Yeah.
Is that like at a certain point, your theories and the characters' theories are just you're playing.
They're
the game.
aligning. Yeah.
Mine don't though.
Ooh.
Oh, I want to get into that. Okay.
We'll talk about that in a second.
Is that the structure in which magic is created, or that Astra funnels magic, like essentially the grid, like the hypothesis that it's collapsing because it was never actually that stable. That like the conduits in which we have been using to contain wild magic, you know, Industrial Revolution, et cetera, like this, it's fucking fossil fuels. Like the way that we are actually manifesting it and utilizing it, we don't actually know its true nature. We just understood the physical properties of it enough to make it work for us, but that the infrastructure is breaking, and either someone is making it break faster on purpose, or it is breaking kind of naturally and some person or group is taking advantage of it. And the magical destiny that we are on is that this has happened before. I mean, we were told it's happening again. So that's to some degree, some kind of like cataclysmic magical occurrence is like on its way. And our use of Astra has sped it along.
Wow.
I think that Astra contains some life matter of some kind that we can utilize for magic. And I think it is alive, and I think over time it's creating these like living creatures that we're fighting, like the jelly ghost and this new one we found that feels like home or whatever. Like that it's not just a resource, that there's something else deeper going on with it. And also that someone knows and they're not telling us and they're trying to keep it from getting out. Or whatever Astra or whatever prior thing was used in the war, I think there's a soul cost to all of that.
Yeah.
And so I think there's like a reckoning happening where the souls want to get us or
I like
something.
that.
Yeah, that's my theory.
I'm incorporating that into my belief system as well.
I, Bex, think that there is some sort of political play going on to gain power based on something that happened in the past, maybe during initial construction, that was unsolved, swept under the rug, and is now sort of being unearthed, pun semi-intended, to be utilized for a power play. Ibra has no fucking idea what's going on. Ibra is like, there is some dream stuff going on, and now there's some specter stuff going on. Ibra's really far more confused and doesn't really have any sort of like mapped out version or idea of what's going on at all.
That sort of plays into Ibra's character because Ibra has been shepherded along by their parents and by these doctors. It's created a person who doesn't seek the answers because they're used to be like someone else having them and just going along with it.
They're used to being in the dark and having to trudge through the dark. And like the other thing I was thinking as Bex is like, there is something about this Astra that is like pure, different, something different that makes it more powerful or at least easier to manipulate.
You're talking about the thing that we just found?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I keep coming back to that initial dream and that sentence of it's happening again.
Yeah.
the it's that is happening again, I'm going to guess that it's revolution. And my guess is that someone is using the Astra to harness these creatures and is going to try to take down the upper levels of society with it.
Nice.
That's my guess.
When will it all come down?
When will it all come down?
Oh, right.
One of our questions in the world building.
Yes. Ooh.
Spicy. I got chills.
Yeah.
Damn.
I'm not going to say, but I loved that. I personally was just sitting over here loving all of that. Everything that just happened was great for me.
It's so funny. I have so many more thoughts that I can't put into words because as soon as it's my turn, my brain goes, nah.
That's literally also me when I plan my moves so far in advance in initiative, and then it gets to my turn. I'm like, well.
I know it's so hard. You have to prepare a little, but you can't over prepare
Yeah.
because you do have to anticipate that things will have changed by the
Yeah.
time it's your turn. That's very hard.
Like a lair action.
Yeah.
Horrible.
Well, and I mean, I'm constantly doing that. You
Yeah.
know, like you guys have you at least you guys can coordinate. I'm working against you guys most of the time.
Yeah.
Just want to say out of game, too, that I feel really bad for how I treated that construction worker guy.
Good.
The Muppet Man?
I felt so bad. As I was bullying him, I felt bad.
And so fast, like without very much prompting at all.
Yeah.
It was
Surprised
just
myself.
immediate.
Sorry, sir.
Yeah, that was some childhood trauma coming out, just
Yeah.
being like, I'm going to step on you very fast.
Because he reminds you of yourself.
I guess.
Or
I
like,
don't. I'm not even
There's
going
a
to dig that
pecking
deep.
order, and I won't be in the bottom.
Yeah. Buck Bagok.
Incredible.
Okay,
Bagok.
we're almost at the end of this little friendship welcome circle. Before we sign off, I do want to point out that after the last combat, you guys leveled up.
Oh, snap!
You guys went from level 2 to level 3.
Oh my
Dude.
god.
We'll discuss that a little bit narratively in the next episode.
Incredible.
But as far as mechanics, I would love to go around and talk about how your builds have changed. We'll go in reverse initiative order.
I love
Cool.
that. Thank you.
So, Ian.
I am deeply. I'm realizing in this moment that this was our homework assignment, and I did not do it.
Shit.
Yeah, I fucked up. I'm so sorry.
That's okay.
I have to look at it.
You get access to things called reagents, which make your bombs stronger, and you can also craft potions now.
I really love that you asked me and then knew the answers. to
Being a
technically-
GM is all about asking questions of your players that you know the answers to.
Okay, so will you tell our listeners at home because I am useless? Please explain.
You explain it
for me.
so well. You should go ahead.
Yeah, Gordon's a level 3 alchemist.
Holy fuck!
Yeah.
Listen, we're all playing with Vault of Spiral Secrets, a book we're not all intimately familiar with yet.
But deeply obsessed with.
Yeah.
Deeply obsessed.
I love it despite not
I
playing
cannot
within it.
stop playing with Vault. Like I don't know if I
I
ever want to
played
play.
anything else ever
Oh,
again.
yeah.
Well, I don't think I ever want to play a game of 5e again without Valda's classes.
Yeah.
Baldus
they're
is the best.
sick.
Okay, so everyone listening at home, imagine that Misha's voice is my voice.
Gordon's a level 3 alchemist now, which means you can access to reagents,
Okay.
which make your bombs more volatile and more powerful.
Yeah.
And then, as a level 3 alchemist, there's like a list of common potions you can make. I think one of them is a potion of growth, which lets you grow 2 times your size.
We talked about this.
You can make healing potions. You can make a couple of different potions now too.
Cool.
And now that I'm the one saying it on mic, your homework is going to be to narratively justify all those things for next episode.
Yeah, I got an assignment on an assignment.
Yeah. I am taking my champion's call in the warden class.
Ooh, that's the warden subclasses. You finally get a subclass. Yeah.
I finally get to choose my subclass, and I'm going with Soul Blood Shaman. Again, this is in Baldur's Spire of Secrets. It's very exciting. I get to be like a third caster now instead of like a half caster or a full
Yeah,
caster.
it's like a paladin where like you get access to magic but not all the way, but like a warden even less so. You get like I think you max out at level 4 spells or something like that.
Yeah, I do.
It also sounds badass as hell.
Yeah.
it is.
It's sort of about having an otherworldly call to destiny. It's about like the spirits of the past imbuing you with the power to protect the present. So
That sounds thematic.
fits
Yeah.
pretty well.
It fits very thematic, and I'm very excited narratively. Like, JJ just did some magic stuff to save my life, so I'm very excited to play with, like, Ibra needing a new tool in their belt.
Yeah.
Speaking of tools in their belt.
Yeah, tools in my belt.
What a transition.
I am going to take up your advice about doing Arcane Masters Guild subclass. Yes. I think it also makes sense for the Astra stuff that we're all experiencing and investigating.
Yeah, there was that moment where you like tried to press a crystal to the barrel of your gun and hope it did something. I'm like, oh, that's a person who wants to make their things more magical.
Yeah, absolutely. I know. And like overall, I'm very, very happy with Fran's build. I think she's in over her head because she's not someone who was ever anticipating being in a situation she's in. So for combat purposes, I think she is a little ill-equipped, but I think that makes sense. And additionally, I think she has other values she can add to combat, like assisting with getting hostages out of situations.
That was clutch.
Yeah. But I feel bad that I can't help hit the big metal guy.
I just love how every shot you fired misfired last combat.
But I feel like that's the storytelling itself.
Yes.
I think that is the story that needs to happen. But I'm very excited to do more magical craftsman things.
Yeah, so your thing, again, all about adding tags to items, crafting different weapons. With your subclass, you get like a special tag, right?
Yes, I think so. I believe so, yes. Because I did cited, but that was like accidental. So I'll have to go through the tags and see what I can get to do.
Oh, yeah.
I'm very excited.
Well, when we were building Fran originally in our world building episodes, we had talked about doing the Armorers Guild of Craftsmen, which was like which was going to deal with like your fashion designer qualities. So that's another thing that I think is interesting, that like, because Fran has now been in these situations and seen what she actually needs to do, she like, I don't know if narratively she changed her mind, but like the fact that like the build evolved as the story did.
Yeah, it's like
cool.
she went through her leatherwork phase, and now she's in her arcane era.
Now she's in her I'm a fuck shit up phase.
Yeah, now she's in her I'm a magician phase.
Because part of the thing about Craftsman is you use your downtime to make everything so much cooler. And the thing about Fran, you have never been able to have downtime.
Yeah.
It's so true.
We're truly on like day 2 of this campaign in world.
I know.
So we've had like an hour of downtime.
Hour of rest once. I had a great time helping Gordon on his delivery.
That was so good.
I loved that
side
scene.
quest. We gotta play another one of those side quests.
Yeah. I think
you have a week of deliveries left to make.
That's
6
the thing.
days.
We sort of left off episode 5 kind of in a pivotal emotional moment, as we've been talking about most of this episode. But I think once some of that gets resolved, we'll move into a downtime phase and see how that goes.
I'm so excited.
I loved that scene so much.
Oh,
it made me so happy. I was like, I want to be in this ride along all the time.
It's such a fun ride along, and Gordon handled it great.
I passed on Santa Monica Boulevard one of those tuk-tuks. There's a Instagram group called, I don't know how to say it, it's KEI. Is the brand.
Oh, the K-Trucks?
K-Trucks. It's called K of SoCal.
Yes.
And there's a community of people who have those trucks here and have like refurbed them and are driving around. And I saw it and I was like, oh!
That's us!
K is a classification of Japanese vehicle.
Yeah.
Whoa. It's not a brand. It's a
You
classification.
gotta take those pictures and send it to our group chat, dog.
Oh,
He was
that's such a good
driving.
point.
He was being safe.
Okay, don't text the group chat when you're driving.
Yeah.
OSHA approved podcast.
OSHA approved podcast. The only podcast that got OSHA approval.
What am I talking about?
JJ's build.
Oh my gosh, JJ's build. It feels anticlimactic because I'm the only one not playing Valda's class, and I've already had my subclass this whole time.
Yeah. Hey,
Clerics
listen, that's okay.
clerics are
I love
weird.
clerics.
We love clerics, yeah.
So JJ taking level 3 in Peace Cleric, which is such a, like, we've been talking out of game about like a lot of the weird tension there, which I think is really spicy and fun, and is why JJ has anxiety. I gave my character anxiety. That's me. I did that.
Look at what you've done to this perfectly good D&D
It's like
character
the
that has
fairies.
anxiety.
It's like the fairies in Sleeping Beauty, where it's like, my gift will be the gift of song. It's like, your gift is the gift of anxiety.
Can I have the gift of being put to sleep for 16 years? That sounds kind of nice.
Well, that was the curse.
Was it though?
It was.
I'm sleepy.
I'm iffy.
So the exciting thing about that is I get 2nd level spell slot.
That's pretty big
which
though.
is huge.
Nice.
Yeah, I now have 4 first level spell slots and 2 second level spell slots. Which is great. And now I get spiritual weapon.
Spiritual weapon.
Pretty
the
good.
cleric thing. That thing.
Yeah,
that
it's
clerics
great.
get.
As soon as you replace your Shattered
As soon as
Astro
I
Crystal.
yeah, so mechanically,
yeah.
I'm very excited for that.
Yeah, someone needs to tell Ibra what the frick is going on.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's gonna be so expensive to replace. Not
Again,
excited
someone
for
needs
that.
to tell Ibra what the frick
Well,
is
not if
going
we go
on.
to Thorgan.
I suppose
He's so smart and very good.
Yeah. We all don't really know who
Yeah,
Thorgan is.
I think it's going to be a fun day.
I want that field trip now.
Yeah,
actually.
perfect.
That'll
So
be a
badly.
really.
I think that he's the first
funny.
person I would go to if Astro was broken,
Yeah.
which is terrible.
You know what? Don't explain it to Ibra until we
won't.
get to Thorgan.
Yeah, I
because
won't.
it's more
That's
fun
fair.
that
Yeah.
way.
Well, it won't be Thorgan's home. It will be the Pachanko parlor.
Yeah.
Which is his de facto home.
It's where he's always found.
Yeah.
He hasn't
So,
left that stool for 3 weeks.
as far as I know, he does live there.
Yeah. But yeah, still trying to decide what that spiritual weapon will be because I think that narratively that'll be very fun to decide.
Yeah, I'm excited to see it.
So the fun thing is, Misha knows this, is that I was also like forever GM for a while until Misha became my GM, and now I play in 3 of Misha's games.
Yep.
Which is
Wild. What a wild turn
honestly,
for you.
it was not intentional, and yet here we are.
Yep.
So like I love like the narrative choices of characters and like character symbolism specifically. So I have thoughts on the flavor and descriptions and all that, and very not even half baked. It's like haven't chosen the ingredients yet.
Keep tuning in, I guess.
Yeah, find out whenever I cast that spell.
Well, thanks so much, you guys, for talking with me about this little story that we're
Thanks
making.
for having
I'm
us.
so
Thanks for
excited to keep
having
playing
us.
this.
I don't want to be done.
Yes.
It's so fun and so cool. I'm so invested. 5 episodes in, I'm so invested.
I feel even more invigorated to play after this conversation.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
Like I just feel like I have a better overall grasp. I hope everyone at home does too.
Yeah. Thank you guys so much for listening.
Yes, thank you.
Thank
We're,
you.
I
Love
mean,
you.
full veil up for a second. Like, we're still recording this pre-release. So,
Yeah.
like, we're recording with the hope and faith that people are out there listening and enjoying it. I think they will. I hope they will.
I hope so.
Yeah.
Fingers.
So before we even know who you are, thank you for being here with us and for listening and for coming with us on this journey.
Yes, down the path.
Down the wandering path. Oh, like we made the show with that title on purpose. The Wandering Path was created by me, Misha Stanton, and produced by Bex Taylor Klaus, Lynn Raffil, and me. This story was game mastered and sound designed by me, Misha Stanton, and was played and performed by Bex Taylor Klaus, Lynn Raffil, Ian McEwen, and Mayana Barron. Cover art by Lynn Raffil, and music courtesy of the Independent Music Licensing Collective. Our production and house manager is Aaron Bark. If you like what you're listening to, please tell your friends and let them know where to find us. Our website is wanderingpathpod.com, where you'll find links to subscribe and follow us wherever the path leads. We're also on Patreon, patreon.com/wanderingpathpod. We're so grateful for anything you can do to help us keep making this show. Thanks for wandering with us. Till next time.